Hey, Tom, are you there?
Yes, can you?
I can hear you. Um, Welcome, and please meet my co host, Isaac. Isaac, Tom, you guys met the other day.
We met the other day. Hi, Isaac.
How's it going, Tom? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you too.
All right,
All good.
I'm gonna shut your mic off for a minute while I make a few announcements. Okay, Tom?
All right, you want me to turn it off? Is what you're saying?
Yes, if you can, that'll be great. And I'm just going to make a few announcements before we get started. Okay, thank you. Welcome, friends, to the longest running poker space. I'm Sherry Pluskota, and I'm happy you're joining me and my co host Isaac this evening or listening at a future time. Thank you. And many thanks to my sponsor, Elevator Results. If you need a tailor made workout plan, to help you lose weight or gain weight, Elevator Results can design that plan. Follow them on Twitter and check out their site at elevatorresultspt.com. A reminder, you can find the recordings of my past spaces on my YouTube channel at Sherry Pluskota 9212. And don't forget that interview I did with the guys from the Green Visor Gang is on that YouTube channel as well. Tonight's guest was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and was an accountant before becoming a poker player and author, I might add. My guest is a four-time bracelet winner and the 1993 main event winner. Tom was the first to win a single table satellite into the main event and go on to win it. He won his second bracelet that year for his win of the 1K Limit Hold'em tournament. Tom's third bracelet was for his win of the 1986 Raz tournament, and his fourth bracelet came in 1992 for his win of the Limit Omaha tournament. Tom was inducted into the Poker Hall of Fame in 2013 alongside our friend Scotty Wynn. Tom has co authored and wrote 15 books and was a PokerStars team pro. My guest's Hendon Mob has 341 entries with total life earnings over $3.1 million, with a best life cash of $540,000 for his main event win. Out of his 341 mob entries, 33 were third place finishes, 36 were second place finishes, and 43 were first place finishes. So 39% of his entries are top three finishes. Very impressive career. Just a side note, the very first entry on Tom's Hendon Mob was recorded for his first place finish in February of 1992 when he won the 1K Amarillo Slim Super Bowl of Poker for $57,000. Please welcome Tom McEvoy. I'm glad you can join us, Tom.
Hi there. Glad to be here. I'll be happy to answer questions or just talk. Take your pick, or both.
We're gonna do a little bit of both, and I'm glad you're willing to do so because you know, we here in Spaces love storytelling because that's what we do. Because we don't see each other, it's just like a radio show. So story time is the best time in Spaces. Fats, I see you're requesting. We're going to do a few questions and then I'll bring up some other speakers. So just bear with me for just a few minutes, Fats, and I think you'll understand why. Before we dive in, Tom, I kind of wanted to acknowledge that we lost a Poker Hall of Famer this week, Jack McLennan, and our thoughts and prayers are with his family and friends. Um, Tom, is there anything you would like to share about Jack?
Well, he was excellent, outstanding tournament director for a number of years. He directed the World Series of Poker. He actually had a heart transplant maybe a decade ago. So he survived another 10 years or so before he passed. But he definitely left his mark on the poker world. And I was at least casual friends with him for a long time. I knew Jack when he first came to town because we played in some of the same games to him. So before he became like famous as a tournament director, I already knew him. That's not the
Well, and
first time that happened. Where I met a famous, later to be famous player before they were famous. But he
Well,
was
and
one
I'm
of them.
sure that you have many stories. And for those that don't know Jack, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2014. He was part of poker operations for over 40 years. As Tom had said, he was a WSOP tournament director in the 80s. He also was tournament director at the Bellagio until he retired in 2013. So may he rest in peace, Jack McClelland. I just thought we needed to start out by acknowledging that we lost a great one this week. Moving right along, Tom, can you tell us how you got started in the world of poker?
Well, I was about 5 years old when my grandma would come to visit. I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and she lived in Chicago. So well into her 80s, she was still driving back and forth to pay us visits. So she sat me down and gave me $1 worth of coins, pennies, nickels, mostly,
Right.
and then taught me the very basics of poker. And then she would proceed to win all the money back and keep it. And I had to put a stop to that eventually. So I got better. It took a while, but I finally beat grandma. She was my first big challenge. But
Well,
I grew up basically playing cards, poker especially. So
well,
I
you
was
sure
always,
made her proud. You definitely made your grandma proud at that poker table for sure. Around 1970, you outplayed 19 other players to win the one and only Champions Invitational. Do you remember what the top prize was for that tournament?
oh, sure. That was in like 2009, where they invited all the living former main event champions to play a winner take all format where the top prize was a vintage 1970 Corvette. And that's what I won.
I love it. Um, how how long did you keep that Corvette?
Let's see, about 5 or 6 days. Then I
No.
sold it to, of all people, Amarillo Slim.
Oh, I
Well,
love
at the
it.
time, I'm past 60 years old. I always wanted a Corvette when I was younger, but I realized a bright red vintage Corvette at my age, one of two things were going to happen. I was either going to get a lot of speeding tickets or I was going to crash and kill myself. And I didn't like either
Yeah,
alternative.
not
Besides, I was
good
engaged
choice.
at the time. So it
Not
turned
good
into an
choices.
engagement ring for my future spouse.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. And let me ask you, just as a side note, do you think doing away with such prizes was good for the game, or should we, go back to some of those kind of things?
Well, I won in as a result of poker tournaments where not only was there a top cash prize, but there was like a car. 3 times I won cars. I only got to keep one of them, but my wife claimed it. So I was first going to give it to my daughter as a high school graduation present. That was way back in 1987. But my wife said, I'm not giving that to her. I'm keeping it. Okay, fine. I wanted up in Lake Tahoe and I had to drive it back home in the winter, which was not fun, but you got to do what you
Um,
got to do. So I managed to keep one of the three cars I managed to win. But yeah, I've been in a lot of tournaments where they had prizes besides the cash prize, but always you're shooting for the money first and foremost. But when I won the Corvette, it was winner take all, and there was no money, but just the car plus a
Right.
beautiful Loving Cup silver trophy, which I still proudly display. I said,
Good for
they
you.
at the time the idea was they would start doing it maybe every 4 or 5 years, and they never did it again. So I won the first, last, and only Binion's Cup, and still have it in my possession.
That's amazing. Good for you. That is really cool that you still have it so many years later. Because, you know, Robert Turner is a good friend of mine, and he tells, he has told me stories. As fast as I would win the car, Sherry, I would gamble it away. And and those are kind of the
I
sad
can
stories of
attest to the
poker.
truth of that. I I knew Robert way back when I first came to Las Vegas. He was playing out here, and I ran into him very early on in my poker career. He's always been a promoter and a character for sure, but he did have a
Absolutely.
bit of a gambling problem. He'd bet every football game on the board sometimes. It's
And you know
ridiculous,
what?
but anyways, that's
He
his
still
thing.
he still likes to place those sports bets. He still likes to bet those
I'm
sports.
sure he does.
Yep, he sure does. Okay, I'm going to move us on to another topic. This summer, a very deserving Michael Mizuraki was inducted into the Poker Hall of Fame. As a member of the Hall, can you tell us how that that process went since he wasn't a nominee? Like, did people call you? Did you guys host a meeting? Like, how did that induction happen?
Well, I have a strong opinion about the Hall of Fame, and that is it's ridiculous that they only put in one person per year. In the last several years, that's what they've done. One person. Uh, Twice they put in a deceased player who was very worthy, Lane Flack in one case and David Delfish Elliott in
Right?
another. So they weren't even adding to the total number of players.
Living,
And there's a
right?
lot of very worthy players that have been passed over. And my favorite player that should be in there is Kathy Liebert, and she's been nominated like 3 or 4 times. It hasn't been inducted, and she certainly deserves it, in my opinion, more so than some of the other people that have already been inducted. But in any case, with so they put in one person this year, like they've done the last several years. But when Miss Rocky, who for the fourth time won the $50,000 Players Championship, and then goes on to win the main event. Before he won the main event, when there were still 4 players left, he was the chip leader and the favorite, but he hadn't won it yet. I get a call from Jack Eiffel, the tournament director for the World Series of Poker. He says, Tom, a lot of players, Hall of Famers, got together and they think they like to induct Miss Rocky into the Hall of Fame if he wins the tournament. I said, he should be inducted whether he wins it or not. To win the what many consider the toughest tournament to win 4 times is incredible.
Right.
So I said, absolutely, he should be inducted. And I guess I wasn't there because I was already in Michigan. We had family issues. My sister-in-law just passed away last week, and I was here for the funeral
I'm
this week.
I'm sorry to hear
So,
that.
anyways, well, I got to see her before she passed, and I was visiting her and my brother at the time the final table was being played, and when I got the call, so I would have, if I'd been in Las Vegas at the time, I would have been there because I certainly supported Ms. Rocky being in the Hall of Fame. He's very worthy and very deserving. I guess people were actually chanting Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame, because they knew he wasn't even. He's been nominated before, but they only put 10 nominees up for consideration every year.
Well, let me
So he
ask you.
certainly had it.
I, let me ask you this. Nobody is questioning that Michael should have been inducted to the Hall of Fame. Nobody is questioning him being deserving of such an honor. I mean, that's even not even a topic of discussion. But I do have a question. Do you think it's okay that all of the rules were bypassed to induct him into the Hall of Fame? Is that really okay?
Hell yes.
Oh, interesting.
Some of these rules were established back when the Texans ruled the roost. The Hall of Fame wasn't established in 1979, and all the Texans were all the main biggest names in the poker world at the time. And some of those rules, there are people in the Hall of Fame that were not great players, but were tremendous contributors.
Right.
Henry Ornstein, for one, who invented the whole card camera.
Right.
Linda Johnson's always been a good player. Is she a great player? I don't think so. But she's in there, but she's contributed mightily to the promotion of poker.
Well, inventing the
She's
TDA,
been a tremendous ambassador.
the TDA rules. She was part of writing.
So they're
she's deserving.
just like Jack McClellan, who we were just talking about. He didn't make it in there as a player. He made it as a contributor. Well, they're putting people like Matt Savage, who's a strong contributor, on the same ballot with all the top players. It's not even fair. Matt Savage has been nominated something like 9 or 10 times and never made it because they were only putting one in a year. The year I went in, they did have two. Some years they did put two in, but a lot of times it was just one.
Yeah, they went
so
back.
He's
down
another
to
one that should be in there.
In 2020, they went back to doing one. And I totally agree with you. And quite honestly, for the last 3 years, I've been pushing for rule changes in the Hall of Fame because, like you,
way overdue.
It's way overdue. But my problem is now we can't trust the process because now the process was just thrown out of the window with the bathwater and bypassed completely. So, the Hall of Fame, the rules were put in place by the Hall of Fame members, and then they didn't follow their own rules. And guess what? If you don't like the rules, then change the rules.
Well, wait a minute. Slow down a minute. I had something to say.
Yes.
The rules are whatever the World Series of Poker decides they are. Are you kidding me? For years, they put in 2 a year, and then they stopped doing it. A few years, only one. So they changed it. Well, who changed it? Management. They don't give a crap, in my opinion, in a lot of cases. Someone like Jack Eiffel certainly would agree with what I'm saying about there should be more than one person per year. So rules are made to suit the situation and the times. And the only people right now that could vote for a Hall of Fame induction are the existing living members of the Hall of Fame who choose to vote. So they actually did take a vote among all it wasn't just me that they called, all the others they did too, like Negrano and Helmuth were there and so forth.
And I understand, we all understand that.
It was like almost unanimous as far as I know. No one objected to putting Mizrachi and be the second inductee this year instead of just the one.
Well, and again, nobody's disputing that Michael's not deserving. I'm just talking about the process right now. And the process
sucks.
Nobody disagrees with that.
I'm sorry, but that's how I feel.
Nobody disagrees with you. Nobody disagrees with you. I agree with you that the process needs to be changed. That's why I've been advocating for the process to be changed for the last 3 years. My problem is that they didn't.
You and a lot of other people.
Right. 100%.
But
100%. But my problem is those rules are in place and they just bypassed them all because Michael was not even a nominee. He wasn't even a nominee. He was not
when
one
you
of the
say
10 nominees.
But we say the rules are in place. It's whatever they decide the rule is, and they change the rules. So you're actually thinking we bypass the rules, and there should be maybe a discussion about that. They set the rules. It's not something voted on by anybody. It's just the arbitrary management that runs the World Series of Poker decides what the rules are at the moment, and they've changed them in the past. Don't forget the very first year under the Binion regime, they put in like 10 or more people in the very first year. A lot of them were deceased, but still they put in a whole bunch of people right away that all deserved it, of course, in my opinion. So the rules are whatever whoever owns the rights to the World Series decides they are. Don't kid yourself. This is not something that's a democratic process.
Well, I'm just going to say to you, as a player, we're being presented that this process has a set of rules, and so we are looking at that management team to go by their own rules. And part of that rule process is that we as players take time out of our schedule to figure out who we would like to nominate as somebody worthy of that distinction of Hall of Famer. And we take time out of our schedules to submit nominees. Then those submissions are narrowed down to 10 nominees. And out of those 10 nominees, in this case, one was named Nick Schulman, very deserving, and the rest that didn't get in were very deserving as well. So then you have 10 nominees, one gets in, the other 9 don't. But then you have another player getting installed who did not go through that process. So how, am I ever going to take time out of my schedule to submit nominees in the future when it really doesn't matter what I think? Probably not. Why waste my time?
Well, that's a kind of a dark viewpoint, but you certainly have some validity to it. But I mean,
I mean,
I personally have nominated people. I
I'm going to
I
tell you,
voted for Kathy Liebert every time with my votes, but I
and
nominated somebody else this year who didn't make the cut.
I've
A
been
guy named Carl
advocating for.
McElvey, who most
Oh, okay. And I've nominated and have been campaigning for Miami John for the last 3 years. I mean, there are very
very
many, and
worthy
Matt
and very
Savage, and
deserving.
yeah, and Matt Savage and Kathy Liebert, Mike Matusow, like you mentioned, there are so many deserving, and like you, I think we should be, and many in this room think we should be installing more than one. But as a player, why would I waste my time on the process if the process isn't going to be followed anymore? Because that's kind of a pat on the head. Oh, good try, but go on your business. We're going to do it the way we want to, and really what you submit, it really doesn't matter, so why waste my time? But that's kind of how I feel about that. So let's talk about okay, I've committed to learn how to play Raz by next summer. So I just ordered your book that you wrote with Linda Johnson and Max Stern, titled Championship, 7 card high low. I'm sorry, high eight. No, is it high eight?
Stud 8 or better,
Oh, stud eight or better. Thank you.
Stud 8 or better,
And
Raz
Raz.
and
Thank
7 card start 3 games. I
thank you. So
you know,
tell me,
Linda
as
actually
go ahead.
no, I said we we had three of us were co-authors. We each did one section. Linda Johnson did the Raz section. Max Stern did the stud 8 or better section because he'd won a bracelet in that game, and I did the 7 card stud section.
Well, and I know you got
So
your your third bracelet in Raz, so I'm going to pick your brain. So, give me some advice as a
okay,
new player, going into the world of Raz. What advice would you give me?
do not defend the high card bring in hardly ever. People
Do
have it
not.
say, oh, they got part of a bet in, and they might be heads up with a low card that raised. Well, they're at a huge disadvantage right from the get go. Even if the other guy that raised has a bad one in the hole, you don't know that for sure. But he
Right.
for sure knows you got a bad one. So when you get a face card and have to bring it in and someone raises, sometimes I've seen people, well, 2 or 3 other people called that raise, so I might as well too because I got part of my bet in. Okay, now you're in like 4th place out of 4 and have the worst up card. So it's a huge mistake for people to be chasing that. And as a general rule, if you have a rough 3-card 8, say you have an 8-7-6 or 8-7-5, kind of rough, 8s will a lot of times win, but rough 8s get you in a lot of trouble. So if a low card raises, let's say a 4 or 5 raises and a 3 calls, and you got 8-7-6 or 8-7-5, dump it. So yeah, and it's also, and Raz is the simplest of all poker games. You always know exactly what's the best possible hand your opponent can have. And he knows what's the best possible hand you can have. What we don't know is which cards sometimes pair your opponent. Sometimes you can tell, well, the guy hit a 4 and there's no other 4s out, say on 5th Street. Well, if there's no other 4s out, the good chances are maybe he started with one. So you got to kind of be able to read through the lines, so to speak.
Right.
So it's just it's easy to know what's the best possible hands out against you. So the biggest problem people get is playing a marginal hand. They slip in with a 9 or a 10. I've done it myself sometimes under what I consider to be the right circumstances. But as a general rule, if you dump all rough 8s in all cards, starting hands that are 9 or worse, you're better off in the long run. You get in far less trouble.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm writing notes as you speak. I'm writing fast and furiously. So when I get knee deep in it, I'm going to come back to my notes. Tom told me not to do this, or Tom told me to do this. So I appreciate those starting notes for myself, and um, I keep telling myself I need to get on the ball with this endeavor, and so ordering the book is the first step. Let's welcome Fats and ASG. Hey, Fats. Hey, ASG.
Hey, Tom, nobody ever is going to read you for defending rolled up kings.
He's my good friend, and he's also my biggest critic. He says I'm the only guy that ever got into the Poker Hall of Fame that never bluffed. He's wrong.
That's a true statement.
You know, he's been telling that story to us for about a week, Tom, that you never bluff. You never bluff.
I want to
Well,
see
I don't bluff
documented
very
proof,
often. That's true.
testimony of one player.
Well, I like to have the best of it.
Right? ASG, I'm going to go ahead and let you if you have a comment or a question, I'm going to take it right now, buddy. Go ahead.
Sure. So I'm looking at your Wikipedia, and I was hoping you can expand upon this story about how you convinced Becky Binion to make WSOP non-smoking.
Now, ASG, you saw
Yep.
the notes on that post today, and you're just going to come in hot like that. Go ahead.
For one thing, I never did convince Becky Binion. I convinced her son, the grandson of our founder, Benny Binion. We call him Junior sometimes. He played poker and he was a smoker. At that one year, it was actually less than a year that I was actually the card room manager down at Binion's Horseshoe. So he played poker and he loved poker. And I said to him, look, if I give you personal private lessons for free, you think you could convince your mother especially to let the tournament go non-smoking? I said, it's way overdue. I had already hosted a successful non-smoking tournament in 1999 at Sam's Town in Las Vegas. We got a lot of favorable publicity out of it. I said, this is way overdue. People are getting sick all the time from the effects of secondhand smoke. Even the smokers, a lot of them prefer it to go non-smoking. And that's true. We were, me and several other people were had petitions that were signed. Some of the smokers put in brackets. They signed their name, said smoker, just because they agreed it was way overdue. And I knew this too. If we could get the World Series to go non-smoking, the others would fall into line, and that's exactly what happened. This was way back in 2002 World Series. So up through 2001, you could smoke at the table and blow smoke in each other's faces and have chemical warfare. So that all ended.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for bringing about smoke-free poker rooms. Thank you. I know that
People take it for granted now, but they have no idea what it used to be like.
I know that's right. I mean, I
People
remember people smoking on
they have
airplanes.
bronchial problems at the World Series.
Right. Okay. In 2017, there was your 1983 World Series of Poker main event bracelet went on eBay up for sale in a lot. How did that come about?
I was broke. I had no money left.
Got it. Survival.
I didn't lose my money playing high stakes poker or any other form of gambling, but I had a lot of things going on. I had some very bad investments that went sour. I was for 8 years. I was a team pro for Poker Stars, so I had a little salary there, and plus they put me in some tournaments. And then when the federal government and their non-wisdom shut down the internet sites in 2011, that was the end of that. For me, anyways. They kept a few people on, like Negrano and Moneymaker, but I lost my spot. So I didn't have enough income to offset my expenses, and I got defrauded on rare U.S. stamps of all things. I was an avid stamp collector, and I bought some stamps that were had certificates on that weren't legitimate, and I lost a ton there. But I did a lot of stupid things. It wasn't from in a way. I wish I just played a big giant cash game and lost it. The way I lost my money was awful. But anyways,
it was
live and learn.
because
Life.
You were trying to do the right thing, right? And it was just being taken advantage of by, bad people. Do you know who bought your bracelet?
Not really. Some guy from Canada. I don't remember his name. And well, if he, I never even met him, or of course, or talked to him even, other than through text messages and stuff. But anyways, he's got it somewhere up there.
Well, I'm gonna make a promise. One of these days, if I bink something over $500,000, I'm gonna find that bracelet for you.
You have to be a good detective, because I don't know the guy's name even. Once it was gone, it was gone. That was it. But I got a story. I came out with my autobiography a year ago, and I talked about the demise of all 4 of my bracelets. I don't have any bracelets anymore, and there's stories about every one of them. That was, 2 of them were stolen, by the way, and one, my ex-wife, I gave her my bracelet for Raz. When we split up, she put it in a garage sale.
Oh my
Some guy
God!
bought it for the price of the gold, and I tried to get it back. The guy calls me. I tried to buy it back from him, but it fell through. So, anyways, that was it.
Let's go on
So
and talk
2 of them
about.
stolen, 1 sold in the garage sale. The only one that I sold was the main event one. I kept that as long as I could. But I was totally out of money. I just had to do something.
You got to survive. That's you and your family have to survive, and that's more important than any bracelet ever could be. Unfortunate, but that's the way life goes, right? Let's talk about your books for
Right.
a moment. You have 15 books, and I'm going to go quickly down the list, and let's just pretend like I got them all right. So we're going to pretend that I got them all right because I think I do. Tom's books are titled the following, and of course he's co-written some, and I did not keep track of all the co-writers, so forgive me for that. We're just going to go through all the titles of the books. Championship No Limit and Pot Limit Hold'em, Championship Omaha, Championship Tournament, Championship Tournament Practice Hands, Championship 107 Hold'em Tournament Hands, How to Beat Low Limit Poker, Championship 7 Stud High 8 or Better and Raz, Championship the Championship Table at the WSOP, How to Win at How to Win at Poker, Championship Satellite Strategy, On Stage, the New Kinds on the is it the New Kinds or the New Kids on the Block? I think it should be the New Kids on the Block, right? Championship
Anybody under 40 is a kid to me now.
Championship Your Way into Big Money Hold'em Tournaments, Championship How to Win No Limit Hold'em Tournaments, Championship Hold'em Cash Games and Tournaments, and your 15th book is Poker Pioneer. And you have been quoted as saying that's going to be your last book. Why is that, Tom?
Well, a lot of those how-to books were pretty good at the time, but poker has moved on. A lot of the stuff I wrote about has certainly still has a lot of validity, but it's not the same poker world anymore. And
Right.
in my heyday, yeah, we weren't facing fields of 2, 3, 4, 5,000 or 10,000 in case of the main event. So a lot of my strategies are still good, but there are other authors out there that have gone further than I have. A lot of people talking about GTO and all this stuff, which wasn't around, at the time I was writing my books. So I still feel they have value, absolutely, but the game itself has moved on. The world
Sure.
moves on for all of us eventually.
Sure.
And the poker world has definitely moved on from
So tell
my heyday.
so tell us what the your 15th book, Poker Pioneer. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, my biographer that we co-authored this together and was a guy by the name of Brad Smith. He had wrote, I knew him because he was the publicity director for an organization called the Casino Collectibles Association,
Oh yeah.
where they would have, they'd have big meetings every year in Vegas in particular, where they had dealers that would specialize in all kinds of casino memorabilia, mostly chips, but not just chips, everything you can think of.
Decks
So
of cards.
he had invited Linda Johnson to participate one year, and she was a big hit, big success, and so he wanted to do it again. So he started asking around who they thought would be willing to do that, and he contacted me, and I said, "Sure, I'll do it." So I did. And meanwhile, he had written a whole series of articles for it's like didn't come out monthly; it was like quarterly magazine for the association. And he had all these articles in there, and I started reading his articles. I said, "My God, these are really good." He talks about early days in Las Vegas, the early casinos, people I never heard of that were prominent at the time in like the 1930s and early 40s. A lot of people I never heard of. Some of them were associated with the underworld, not all of them, and some of them. So there was all kinds of interesting people and
Right.
stories. I said, I told him, I said, Brad, um, I think you got a book here if you want to pursue it. Well, he said, well, I wasn't sure and all that and stuff. And I said, after I got to know him, we became pretty good friends.
Right.
Finally, I said, Brad, I started on my autobiography a couple different times and I just couldn't continue with it. I said, I know I have to have help. Is that something that would interest you? He said, oh, I don't think I'm qualified to do that. I've never written a book before. I said, I like your writing. You did a lot of meticulous research. I told him I have scrapbooks of all my accomplishments and plenty of data to back everything up. And of course, we still have the Hendon Mob, where you can get results there.
Of course.
So he said, well, I don't think I'm qualified. And I said, Brad, I'm willing to take a chance on you if you're willing to take a chance on you. So he agreed that we give it a try. I said, I don't know if we're ever going to make any money off this book, but we haven't yet, by the way, which is why I don't think I want to do another one. But I will eventually be in the black for the book.
Well, I'm just going to tell
But
you,
we're not there yet. Anyways,
I'm just going to tell you that I bought
go ahead.
I bought a copy of that book and gave it away at our last meetup game, which I told you the other day. And Isaac is the one that won the book at the meetup game back in June. So at least we had one sale by me here in this space.
Okay. Well, we had
Is
more
there
than
anything
that.
else you'd like
But
to tell us about
I
that
was
book?
never. Yeah, it's plenty. I've read a lot of other poker autobiographies by various people. And one thing they lacked in a lot of cases was the telling the whole truth. They told their truth, part of their truth, but not the whole truth. And I told Brad when he agreed to do this, I said, I was 78 years old at the time we started. And I said, I want a published, finished book in my hand before my 80th birthday, which was in 2024. So we started this in 2022 when we first started. I said, this book is going to take, in my opinion, close to 2 years. It took about 1 year and 9 months. That's by far the longest I ever did. But I said, Brad, I don't want an ounce of bullshit in this book. I'm going to have my story told, warts and all. So I not only told people what to do to be successful in poker, I sure as hell told them what not to do because I made every mistake you can think of. It's ridiculous. I would wind up with no money at this late date, but that's what happened. So be it. But anyways, that's what I did. And I said, all right, we're going to put this book in chronological sequence. And that's what we did. And I had all these scrapbooks and all this other information, articles written about me that I had saved and all kinds of stuff.
Well, tell me
And
who.
he picked my brain constantly for stories. Sometimes
love it.
I'd be telling one story and then I'd go off on a tangent a little bit. Sometimes he'd bring me back. Sometimes he'd just let me ramble. So a lot of the book, he put it in his words, but a lot of it was almost word for word the way I dictated it. So, but he had his own touches to it, and I said it's okay to put some humor in there, and I can be the butt of the jokes. No problem with that. And he took me at face value because he sure did. He stuck it to me a few times, which is okay. It makes
Right.
it. I want this book where people pick it up and read it. That, my God, all this happened. He said, I didn't sugarcoat things. The way it really happened, the way I presented it, at least from my personal perspective.
Sure. Now,
I couldn't put everything in there. There's a few things I would have liked to, but I would have been possibly sued. But so
well,
I chose not to.
Understandable. Now, you mentioned you have scrapbooks. Who put those scrapbooks together?
I did.
That's
I
awesome.
started. I moved to Las Vegas. I moved full time to Las Vegas July of 1979. I know for sure because it was right around the 4th of July because that was the same year Bob Stupek's Vegas World opened at the same date.
Isaac, shut your
It
mic off,
later
please.
became the Sphere. Oh yeah, I heard the background
Yeah,
noise.
I have.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead, continue. Yep, we're good.
So, anyways, I lost my train of thought, like I often do in real life. Like now, it's real life too.
Let me just tell you, we do
So,
that often here in the spaces because we just get sidetracked,
yeah,
and it's okay, no problem.
yeah.
Fats, did you have a question or comment?
So,
He had his hand up for a while. Go ahead, Fats.
Nah, 15 books.
Yeah.
So you must be cleaning up on those residuals.
yeah, sure. I right now I average about $50 a year in royalties. It's not quite enough to retire on, but it's enough to buy a nice dinner, sort of, for one person.
Hey Tom,
I
I
made a
wanted to
lot of
ask
money
you
when they first came out,
back
but
to
those books are old now, and not too many people buy them anymore. But they're still out there. You can still get them on Amazon, and that's where you can get my autobiography. By the way, it's not a small book. Might as well.
No, it isn't.
It's
It's a
like
big book.
500 pages, so good luck. But there's a lot of pictures in there,
Well, and
and
I
print's
was
big.
actually chuckling when you said there were some things you would have still liked to add because I've held that book in my hands, and I was thinking when you said that there probably wasn't any room because it's a big book. Like it's a thick book, you guys.
Yeah,
It's a thick book.
yeah, it very much is. I
Okay.
also consider it the best thing I've ever written,
Tom.
and I give a full credit to my Brad, my writing partner. Yes,
I wanted
speak.
to ask you what's your opinion on Matt Savage, with respect to him being the person that ruined 7 card stud as we know it by
Well,
eliminating the double
do you
bet.
think he ruined it?
It,
I don't think he ruined 7 card stud.
it got rid
He
of the
put
double
a
bet.
new wrinkle in it. That's only in the tournaments. If you can find a cash game, that's not the case. But he changed it in the terms. Do I think that was a good change? No, not really. But um, no one's going to agree with every rule, anyways. And 7 card stud is actually a dying game. It's still played to a certain extent on the East Coast, but unless you're playing a mixed game or studded, 7 card stud is one of the games, you can't find a game anymore. It's gone the way of the dinosaurs.
Well, just for
As has draw poker for that matter, and 5 card stud. These are all you see these games played sometimes in movies on TV from the old westerns. Those games aren't even spread anymore.
well, just an
And
FYI, people,
I started out.
if you're in Florida and want to play 7 card stud and you have a group of people and you're near best bet, just go there. Now they will spread that game for you if you have enough people to sit down. So just an FYI for my audience members, best bet will definitely spread 7 card stud if you bring a table full of people, which I think is pretty cool.
Well, we tried doing that a few times. We did it at my favorite casino, South Point, for a while, but we couldn't sustain it. There just wasn't enough players to keep the game going.
Oh,
So we agreed to play like 2 days a week, but we couldn't do a daily game.
that must have
And
been with
and even
Terry's
then,
group.
that died off.
Was that with Terry's group? That must have been
But
Terry's group.
yes, it was Terry King.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah,
she started. Then she
and
had a falling out with the card room manager, and she said she was done with it, and the game just died without
I
her.
hate to hear
She was
that.
instrumental. Yep.
Okay,
No,
I'm
Terry
gonna.
is a very good friend of mine. She's another fascinating one. You got to
Yeah,
get
I've
on
been
your
trying
show
to get.
sometime. She's
Well,
got.
I've been trying to get her in here. Maybe you could tell her that it's easy. She didn't think it would be
I will.
easy. So I've been trying to get her in here, and she's a little nervous about the technology. But you
Well,
tell
so
her if
was
you can
I,
do it,
but I
anybody
managed
can.
to get through it.
That's right. Um,
My, I got you to help me practice so I could
yes, we
make sure
did.
come
We
Friday
did.
night I was ready. And we
We
did.
did practice it this week. I made some fake spaces, and Tom came in, and we got him acclimated, so it worked, and I'm glad it did. Now I'm going to say a name, and I want you to give me a comment or a story about the person's name I mentioned. And I'm going to start with
Okay.
Amaretto, not Amaretto, Amarillo Slim.
Amarillo Slim, but I call him Amarillo Slime. Now, you really want me to talk about him? I will.
Yes,
You're not going to like what I have to say.
we want the truth. Go ahead. You go right ahead.
At, he did a lot of good things for poker early on, because he got on Johnny Carson, and his line of bullshit was really entertaining to a lot of people. Amarillo Slim was not a nice person. He was not a nice man. He was certainly one of the most dishonest people I ever met. He kept
I,
he had this Amarillo Slim Super Bowl of poker hat that kept moving from one location to another because he'd wear his welcome out doing some of the shit things he did.
oh,
So that's why
interesting.
I said I call him Amarillo Slime, and I got plenty of reasons for it. And he was good for poker at the in the 70s, maybe even up through the early 80s. After that, not so much. And he did a lot of things in his personal life which are still talked about once in a while, being possibly abusing his own granddaughter in a way that shouldn't be ever happen, and things like that.
Well, we're going to move that
So what are you going to do?
conversation. We're going to move that right along because we can't make allegations. Whether they're out there or
That's
not,
right.
I don't know. So we're going to keep
Nothing was ever proved, by the way.
right. So we're not going to put that out there into
There's
the ether.
That's what it was.
Okay,
I'm saying it was all a lot of allegations.
I'm
But
going to
he did
give
dishonest things I was privy to. Okay. All right.
I'm going to give you another
Move
name,
on.
Jack Binion.
Jack Benham is one of the most revered people to this day in the poker world. He and his father, I give enormous credit to. Jack took the ball and ran with it after his father started the World Series, and right up to the time he released his interest in Binion's Horseshoe downtown, where the tournament was held. He was instrumental in helping the growth of poker. Um, you talk to anybody that knows Jack Binion, I have never heard anybody say anything bad about this man. As far as the poker world goes, as far as I'm concerned, he deserves sainthood,
Oh,
such as
interesting.
you can have anybody be a saint in poker. But he was fantastic. He was honest. He ran things fair. You knew if he told you, they used to put him in charge of some of the golf tournaments because these guys were always trying to chisel each other in their handicaps and stuff. So they put Jack Benny in charge of these golf tournaments that the poker players held among themselves because they knew whatever he said, that was it. There's no appeal.
Right, right.
Benevolent dictatorship. And he was great for poker, and he's still one of the people I admire the most in my life.
Well, that's awesome. How about Puggy Pearson?
Well, good old Puggy. He was with the good old boys, although he was not from Texas. He was from Tennessee, but he was of the same mindset. As far as Puggy was concerned, and some of the other old time players, whatever you could do in the game was okay. You could get away with it. So, in other words, cheating was just part of the game. And if you weren't cheating, you weren't trying hard enough. So he did all kinds of bad things.
All right. How about Johnny Moss?
But he was very colorful.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Johnny Moss.
How about Johnny Moss?
Yeah. the grand old man of poker. He really should have been called the grumpy old man of poker. He was grumpy, but he was another character. And in his heyday, he was the best player alive, as far as the no limit hold is concerned, which was the main game the Texans played. And he was Texan, of course. And he was a boyhood friend with Benny Binion, who's another person that is very revered in the poker world, and rightfully so. He's the one that started this whole thing, and he saw there was a future in it, and it could really turn into something. I hope he's up there staring down now 10,000 players. He was hoping they'd get to 50 one day. They got 10,000.
You're alluding to the main event numbers, and here we are at 10,000.
Yeah.
Right? And it started with a dream of 50, and here we are at 10,000. How about Lyle Berman?
That's right. Well, Berman, he owned a lot of casinos in the Grand Hotel and casinos in Mississippi, and he allied himself with Jack Binion, and they hosted tournaments there for a number of years. And he's a Hall of Famer himself. His favorite game was pot limit Omaha High, and he played for very high stakes. And he was always good for poker and poker players. You know, and I have a lot of respect for Lyle Berman. I think he's kind of semi-retired now. I didn't see him at the last World Series. He may not even be playing much anymore. But he had a very positive influence with a lot of people in poker.
Right. Speaking of the last World Series this summer, what did you play?
I played 7 events. I cashed the first one I played and the last one I played, nothing in between. And the first one was the Mystery Millions, $1,000 tournament. And I didn't survive to day 2, but you made 15% of the field make the money. And then on day 1, they played down to about 5%. But if you made the top 15%, you made the money. A lot of people re-entered it because they had several flights and you could re-enter. But I didn't do that. So I cashed. It wasn't a big cash. It was like a little over 1,300. And the very last one, I'm a little more proud of. All the living Hall of Famers get a free event in the Hall of Fame event that they host every year. And that's also at the Hall of Fame event. They usually induct the latest member of the Poker Hall of Fame.
Right.
And introduce them to everybody. So this was the biggest tournament they ever had for this event. They had well over, I think it was about 1,100 players, in fact, approximately. Anyways, I was the last Hall of Famer still standing. We all had a bounty on our head. Our bounty coincided with the year we were inducted into the Hall of Fame. So anybody could buy into the tournament.
Right.
It was Hall of Fame was started in 1979. The buy-in was $1,979. So all the living Hall of Famers that wanted to play had a free entry in that with a bounty on their head, corresponding to the year we were inducted into Hall of Fame. So in my case, it was 2013. So that's what I was worth, $2,013.
Nice.
And I was proud that I outlasted all the other Hall of Famers.
Good for you. Love it.
Including people like Barry Greenstein and Bill Helmuth and a lot of the others.
I see that.
So I finished
Go ahead.
81st. That might not sound like much, but there was over 1,100 entries.
That sounds amazing. Good for you. I love that.
So I mean, I convinced myself I can still play at least a little bit. Maybe I'm not as sharp as I used to be, but I still can play and do.
Of course. Of course.
Next year, I didn't get to play the main event this year, though, which would bother me quite a bit. But I am determined I will at least do one last main event next year. You heard it from me first.
I love that. I'm
The
going
guy
to hold you to it.
Currently doesn't have much money to his name. I'll be in it. You watch.
I'm going to hold you to it. ASG has his hand up. Go ahead, ASG.
Yeah. So, yeah, some of your comments amongst the let's just call them the old school players, made me think of this question because I did see you do an interview where you mentioned some other Hall of Famers that also, reputations might not be perfect. So, what do you think, in the future about like whether or not people like, actually, I won't even mention any names specifically, but whether there should be any kind of morals clause or anything when people are determining who to vote into the Hall of Fame, whether on or off the field?
Well, that's an interesting question because you know who Nolan Dalla is? He used to be a
Yes.
publicity director at the World Series. He's not anymore, but he did that for a number of years. Well, when the ultimate bet scandal hit and Russ Hamilton, the former main event champion, 1994, I believe, was caught on tape admitting he did all this stuff, but he wasn't going to make good on it. A guy had taped him in the lawyer's office and stuff. So he was absolutely 100% guilty. Never went faced any legal consequences for it. Screwed everybody, ruined several people. So no one calls me up and says one time, "Do you think we should take Russ Hamilton, remove him as a world champion? Rescind his title?" I said, "Absolutely not. Yeah, he's guilty of all the things, but he won the term fair and square." I said, "So where do you draw the line then? You know,
You know how many
because
criminals have that
like
honor?
Stu Unger was a drug addict. Yeah, Puggy was notorious being a thief. I said Stu Unger was a degenerate gambler and a drug addict. Ammo Slim had these other legal questions attached to his name that we don't need to discuss anymore. So I said, where do you draw the line on these people? I said, he won the tournament, but they did do one thing that I highly approve of. In the Gallery of Champions, you don't find this picture. And the banner at the World Series of Poker has been removed. So you don't see his picture on the wall there. And he's absolutely persona non grata everywhere he goes. So,
What were the
and
charges?
another pardon?
What were the charges? What was
What was
he
that?
guilty of? Theft having to do with
Who,
any
Russ? He could see the
You
whole
talking about Russ
cards.
Hamilton,
He
sir?
talked to a lot of people. Yeah, Mike Matasow was one of his victims. I thought Mike would be smart enough to realize something wasn't right when he kept losing to him. He challenged these guys to play him heads up. He could see their whole cards. And he ruined several people. Brad Booth, Yukon Brad from Canada, never
right?
recovered.
Was
He
it at
lost his
home
confidence. He
games
lost his money.
No, this was on Ultimate Bet.
on
No,
Ultimate
playing
Bet?
online
Okay, okay. That's why I'm
on
confused.
Ultimate
Okay,
Bet.
got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got
Yeah,
it. Okay.
not home games, Ultimate Bet. But it's just,
Okay.
now, show me a guy's whole cards, I think he was going to have almost no chance to beat me. He'd have to put his money in bad and then hit a 1 or 2 outer or something like that to ever win. It's just ridiculous.
Right.
So he
Welcome
did it,
back,
and he
guys.
admitted to doing it.
You're right.
So
Right.
he's one guy I don't worry about it. I told the whole story because he hired me. I know that story's in the book. He hired me when the shit was starting to hit the fan, and he heard from a mutual friend. He wanted someone that could assess the situation and hopefully give a favorable report. There's no cheating going on. So he told our mutual friend, Bonnie Damiano at the time, who also worked for Russ. Russ said, well, Tom McEvoy is the most honest guy I know, and he could do it. So Russ approached me. Now, here he's got a guy that's got a reputation for integrity. So he figures, this is how I read between the lines. He figured if I could give a whitewash, in other words, if I analyzed all the hands, I analyzed 10,000 hands from Ultimate Bet with the questionable accounts. If I could give them a clean bill of health, that would go a long ways for them to,
Sure.
survive this situation. Well, and he
Sure.
also said, Tom, he says, if we like your work, we have about another $200,000 worth of stuff you can do for us. It was a very subtle little bribe without saying he wanted to bribe me. Get it?
Right.
So because
Yeah.
I agreed to do it. I said I'd do it for $200 an hour because that's what I was getting at the time teaching. He said, okay. And I got paid. I leveled it off at $50,000, and I got the $50,000 from him. He didn't stiff me, and I did the report. Okay, I still got a copy of that report. Here's what I said in the report: there was absolutely no question whatsoever. There was some there was cheating going on. Basically, just call a spade a spade. I said I analyzed 10,000 hands, and I had 1,000 of them had questionable strategy where players that really shouldn't have won, the player that won, I said it might have been okay, but there's a 1,000 hands here, and I documented them all, which I thought were questionable. And I said of those 1,000 hands, 100% were 100 of them. 1% doesn't sound like much, right? you, the guy's whole cards and win 1% major pots mostly. You're going to get all the money. So, and there was a lot more than that, but the ones I could absolutely document as fraud, I listed 100 hands, and I went through all copies of all the hand,
Right.
how it played
Right.
out, how many
Histories.
players were in.
Right.
So I showed him this report, and he looks at it, and he says, Tom, yeah, thank you. That's a very good report. I said he will forward it to the Gaming Commission in Canada somewhere. Of course, that report never saw the light of day. The only reason I could figure out why he hired me was that he thought he could influence me enough subtly, without I'll say it, or I would be stupid enough not to realize something was fishy, that he could get what he wanted out of me, which is a favorable report, because I have a good reputation for integrity in the poker world. And
Right.
so I lost out on $200,000 more work. But because I spent about 3 to 4 months doing this meticulously, hand by hand by hand. I said I did 10,000 hands.
Right. That's a
Anyway,
very
that
tedious
was
work.
the situation.
Well, I'm going
Yeah, sure,
to.
but I could do it. I'm an expert
Course.
player, and I know when things
Course.
don't look right. A lot of the hands were Pot Limit Omaha, which I play a lot of, as well as No Limit. Those are the two main games. He
Well,
cheated the most.
I've brought Matt up onto the panel, and I'm sure he has a question or comment for you. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you, Sherry, for having me on, and hello to yourself and everybody. Hope you're all keeping well over there. Hey, Tom, it's great to talk to you, and you're an inspiration to so many poker players and fans, including myself, man. And
I'm glad to be here.
Are you there, Tom?
Yeah, he was breaking up a little. I really didn't quite understand everything he said.
yeah,
Wait a minute. Okay, Matt, if you would mute for 1 minute, Matt. 1 second. Okay. All right. Let's try it again. Are you walking around or anything, Tom?
Nope, I'm
Okay. Okay.
sitting
Matt,
down.
no worries. Matt's in Europe and he did have a difficult time coming in this space. So we're just going to have to be patient and let's try that again, Matt.
Thanks, Sherry. I do apologise for that. It was, I think the aliens are playing different games with our technology again, Sherry. So I do apologise for
No worries.
that. Hiya, Tom. How are you? How are you doing? So you keeping well over there?
Oh yeah, I'm so active as a player. You know, I haven't retired to a rocket chair yet. I don't think I ever will.
So I like to hear. Of all the tournaments that you've competed in, which would you say was your favourite one, and who inspired you to get into poker?
I got inspired the year before I moved to Las Vegas. I flew back and forth from Grand Rapids, Michigan to Las Vegas to test the poker waters and see if, because I was always winning money in the home games, you know, so I was by far the most successful player in the home games. But, you know, it's not, they call Las Vegas the graveyard of hometown poker champions for good reason. So I didn't know how I was going to stack up against everybody. So I decided to come out and test the poker waters. And I wandered into the Binion's Horseshoe. This is 1978. And I see a whole crowd of people, about 8 deep, standing around watching two guys at a poker table. I said, yeah, what's going on? So, well, that's Bobby Baldwin. He's heads up in the finals of the main event of the World Series of Poker with Crandall Addington, who was a very dapper looking Texan with the Stetson and fancy dress. So I'm watching this, and they're oohing and on, and Baldwin comes out on top, of course, and um, I'm really impressed. And I said to myself right there on the spot, I said, "This is where I want to be. I want to be playing this tournament." So when I moved to Las Vegas in 1979, I told friends, family, and poker colleagues that within 5 years I would be playing in the main event. I never said I would win it. I just said I'd be in it. It took me 4 years, and I got in, and of course I won the first time out. And, and the closest I've been ever since was like 40th. So I never made a deep run after that. I mean, I cashed the main event like 4 times now, but I never made another really deep run.
How
But
many times have you played the main event, Tom?
38.
Wow.
That might be the record or close to it. The Doyle Brunson missed several years, and the only other one that might be close to me, well, there's two guys that might be close to me. One's Barry Johnson, but he doesn't play too much anymore, and the other one was Dewey Tomko, there from the early days. But yep, 38, and I was 38 years old. The next number when I won the main event.
Wow. That's incredible. Matt, did you have any other questions, sir?
Wow, how can I? That's amazing. That is fantastic.
It
38.
is amazing.
Goodness me, that'd be more than I do virtually. I've only competed in 6 of them so far.
Well, of course, my ultimate poker thrill is always going to be winning the main event. You know, that's something. It's like being elected president of the United States. Once you're out of office, you're still Mr. President. Well, okay, they can't take away the fact I won the World Series main event, and so I've done what a lot of these guys are praying to do. You know, I won the main event and got into the
Absolutely.
Poker Hall of Fame. That's tough. Winning the main event doesn't guarantee you. Most of the main event champions are not in the Hall of Fame, so you got to do a lot more than just win the main event to get in the Hall of Fame.
I know that's
That's why
right.
Mizrachi was so worthy this year. Yeah, very worthy.
Let's talk about your journey In that main event back in 1983. Let's go back to day 2. And if you don't remember, just tell me I don't remember. But you got into a big hand with Slim and you raised the action and you only had one caller and it was Slim. Do you remember that hand?
Of course I remember it. And that hand is still, you can look it up um, on Poker
I
Go,
want
has the
right. I
83
want
World
you
Series
right. I want you
there.
to tell us about that hand with Slim.
All right. Now we're on day 2. I survived day 1 with a little bit less than my starting stack, but still competitive. And I'm starting to win a few hands. So I get into this hand with Emerald Slim. I got pocket aces. And of course I raise. And he calls me with pocket sixes, which isn't terrible. It's not like I didn't move in before the flop. I just made a standard raise. He calls. All right, so now we're heads up. The flop comes something like 6-4-3, different suits. And in fact, I think there was 2 spades on board, but that had no bearing on anything. So, so he flopped the set,
Right.
So he's going to try to trap me, of course. So I bet out like I'm supposed to, and he just calls, and then an ace comes on the turn. Now I made a really big bet, enough to put them all in fact, and he summoned on. Now back then you could show your whole cards to try to get a read on your opponent,
Right.
and you can't do that anymore without getting a penalty. So that's a big no-no. But back then you could do it. And so
Right.
he, every angle he could shoot, he'd shoot. So he flips his set over, and I'm looking at his set, and it's pretty. I was pretty. Even before that, I know he didn't like flop a straight. He could have something like with a 7-5 or some
Right.
nonsense hand, but he wouldn't necessarily call the raise with that kind of hand. But 2 sixes makes some sense. So I'm looking at that. Now he's hemming and hawing, jabbering away, and going on and on and on. And I put my Stetson down over my head, and I'm just too quiet, not saying anything. Then all of a sudden, he still hasn't made a move on his hand. So finally, I called the clock on him, or they give you 1 minute, and if you don't act on your hand is dead. And but before that happened, after he'd been drawing for a while, before I called the clock, I had a little bit of a hot dog in me back then. It's something I really shouldn't have done, because I think he would have had to call me, but because he showed his whole hand, and I know he's got the set, I flipped over one of my aces, which is probably not a little smart thing to do. So this hand got all written up and everything. So he's staring at my ace, and he's trying to figure out what to do. And finally, after enough of this nonsense, I just called the clock on him. And so he knows what's going to happen if it gets counted down, and it did. And he just, okay. He said, well, what happens now? When he got counted, when he got zeroed out on the minute countdown, the last 10, 9, 8, something like that,
Right.
blast them up. So anyway, no, he knew. His hand was declared dead. I didn't show my other card, and everybody was going nuts over this hand. They wanted to know what my other card was, and was it, my friend Al J. Ether, who's in the book, my autobiography. He knew what I had. He says, "I know you had the other ace, Tom. Who are you kidding?"
I
And I
love
didn't.
it.
I didn't tell anybody.
Now, I'm going to go back. I'm
So
going to continue talking about that main event when you ended up in heads up battle with Rod Pete.
yep,
And you started the 7
correct.
hour heads up battle as the short stack. And at 2 a.m., you took the chip lead. Do you remember what hand you won that bracelet? What was the winning hand?
Of course.
Tell us.
I had I want to set the stage a little bit first before I get to that.
Please.
People have don't really realize this, but Doyle Brunson came in third.
Yes, he
I'd
did.
won a couple of hands off him, and Rod Pete busted him when he flopped the set, and Doyle had a top pair and a flush draw and decided he overbet the pot, went all in. Rod called him with a set and held up, and Doyle went out third. Everybody thought, of course, he would win, but because we're relatively unknowns at the time, and he was, the big name player, and he was supposed to win, or
Right.
so everybody thought. But anyways, so he went out. So when we got heads up, Rod had 62.5% to my 37.5% on the chips. And the blinds were small. In the previous year, in 1982, Jack Strauss and Dewey Tomko, they had 1,040,000 in chips. We had 1,080,000. We had 108 players. Last previous year was 104. Well, they played maybe 20 minutes heads up and put all their money in, and the blinds were like around 2,000 and 4,000. These put in, they're almost equal on the chips. They just put in 500,000 of the chips pre-flop with ace-4 diamonds and ace-10 on suit, which I thought was insane. Just ridiculous on both their parts. What the hell are you doing putting that much money in when the blinds were there? And I said, well, that wasn't going to happen. And I told them that. I said, because they wanted us to take like a 3-hour break because they wanted it on the night news. And I warned them. I told the Binions, I said, this is not going to go fast like last year. We had plenty of play. I'm not. I knew I was going to have to play a different style against Rod. He and I knew each other because we played in the same games around town, so I was quite familiar with him, and vice versa. In fact, he had beaten me in a tournament a few months prior at a different casino, a small tournament. He came in first, I came in second. But I had a pretty good idea what I wanted to do with him, and I was going to play really conservative to begin with, and just wait for my spots and so forth.
Right.
Well, I did that, and it wasn't working. I went from at one time he had over 700,000 to my barely had 300, so he had increased his lead because it was I said 1,080,000 in play. So the thing dragged on and on, and they did give us this 3-hour break. Mike Sexton later told me I set poker back 10 years with Rod Pete because the TV coverage was for the wide world of sports was the show at that time, and they were the only ones covering it that was televising it for later viewing. And they had all the cameras, people hanging around and all that time. And so we played 7.5 hours after the 3-hour break. So the term back then was 4 days. Well, we went well into the 5th day because we played so long. And that was the longest heads up match that stood for over 30 years in the main event, where some played longer than that. So, anyways, my original strategy wasn't working, so I had to loosen up a little, and I did. So I remember one of the key hands was I doubled through Rod when I had king queen, queen high board, top pair, and he had a flush draw. He had something like 7-6 suited. I think he flopped a pair too or something. Anyway, in any case, he put all his money in when I moved in on him. I moved in on him, and he called me. And if he got 2 cards to come. If he hit his flush or helped his hand, he would have won. But it didn't. He didn't. And so then now I got a little over half the chips myself. And then we seesawed back and forth. But then I went back to what I was doing to begin with, and this time it was working.
Okay.
And I just wore him down. I really did. And so all day long, I had not once held a big pair, not once. now we're well into day 5 now. I've been playing 7 hours, and I got 2 queens. And the blinds had gotten up to 8 and 16,000, which was a record that stood for a few years. Back then, it was dollar for dollar on the chips. And they didn't have any 10,000 players. That was 108. So there was 1,080,000. Anyways, now I got the lead, but it's not overwhelming. And the blinds are up to 8 and 16,000. Rod Pete raises on the button. He's got close to 3, and I got the over 7. So if I lose his hand, I still have chips, so I'm still with
Sure.
it. But he made it 40,000 to go, and I moved in on him. And he took about 10 seconds. He stood up and he called. I said, "Oh shit!" So I think I ran into aces or kings, but I didn't. He had a king jack of diamonds. He cracked. He really did. He cracked. And he did catch a jack, but that wasn't enough. My 2 queens held up, and that was the end of the tournament.
And the first golden bracelet of your career. So very cool. And I see Fats's hand
And that
is
was
up.
actually the second.
Oh, it was.
I won the limit hold'em before I won the main.
But
The
it was
limit hold'em
this.
came first.
It,
The main event was the last event.
but it
So
was
that
the
was my
same
second
year.
bracelet. There was only 14 events that year. I won the 2 biggest terms for the limit hold'em that year and the main event. And
Got it. A second bracelet. Thank you for that correction. Go ahead, Fats.
yes.
Go ahead, Fats.
Yeah, because that was the end. Yeah, that was the end of the World Series is over as far as the
John,
main event is settled. So that was it.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
you were talking about poor investments early on or along the way.
Yes.
And I think I just did the math. I figured out what some of those were. It was the other 37 times you played in the main event. That was 370.
Yeah, but I cashed 4 times altogether, so it wasn't all a loss. And besides that, on every one of them, I had pieces out, so I was never putting up the whole 10.
That's what we do.
But it's nice of you to keep me grounded there, young man.
Well, Tom, I always look out for you. And
Yeah,
the funny part about on the stamps was you got bluffed on the stamps.
I did. You're right. I did get bluffed.
So see there, Fats?
That's a good
You
analogy.
did get bluff, Fats. So that story doesn't check out anymore, Fats.
Well, no, but he didn't bluff the guy. Somebody bluffed him. That's different.
Oh, that's right. You were saying
I
he
got
had to
bluffed.
bluff.
But
I had. They were legitimate stamps, but they were doctored. They weren't in the condition they were supposed to be in. So I could get into the technical stuff of stamp collecting, but most people are going to fall asleep if I do that. So, anyways, I had legitimate stamps, but they weren't. The condition is everything. Same thing in coin collecting too. The condition of the coin makes a huge difference in the market value. Well, same thing with stamps. And I was deceived, and a couple of people actually went to jail. That
What a shame.
one guy had a lab up in Sunland, California, with doctoring the stamps, legitimate stamps, but doctored with
Wow, I hate to hear that.
gum and perforations and stuff like that.
well,
And
Tom,
they had an inside guy at the Philatelic Foundation that doctored the issued false certificates, and that's what I got nailed with.
Go ahead,
Tom,
Fats.
you're
One of my
usually
less intelligent maneuvers.
you're a victim of being too nice of a guy. That's the problem.
Well, I did make a lot of mistakes trusting the wrong people. That's for sure. I did that.
I'm
By the way, he goes by Fats, but it's Steve
Steve.
Giano, and he's been a long time friend of mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm used to him always calling me the bluffless wonder, and the only guy in the Hall of Fame that never bluffed a hand. So I'm used to that. And he's always putting the knock on me, but I know down deep in his soul he loves me, and I love him too.
Well, that's a friendship made for a long time coming.
Well, it was how we met was
Oh,
was a real.
yeah. Why don't you tell that story? I like that. Yeah. Can we let Steve tell that one?
Of
That's one of my
course.
favorite stories.
We were
Go
playing.
ahead.
I went down to the to Binion's to play satellite for the World Series. This is the year after the moneymaker, and I decided, all right, I'm going to get involved in this poker thing. And I go down. I play my very first satellite, and I get heads up with none other than Mr. McEvoy, and he's got me in chips, and we get to the part where when you get heads up, they take the big blind and the small blind that kind of switches, and so I had never seen that before. So, and it was a rookie dealer, and he was confused. And Tom says, "Well, this is how the big blind, small blind goes." And I said, "Well, I want to get a ruling, make sure we get it right." And Tom says, "Trust me, I know how it goes. It's right." And I said, "Well, I'd rather get a ruling." He goes, "It's right." And I said, "Well, I don't know who you are. I mean, who the hell are you? Why should I trust what you have to say?" So he just very casually, he just points to his picture on the wall. And that was my first encounter with Mr.
That
McElroy.
was your induction to Who the Hell Are You?
That was it. That was the answer to who the hell are
I
you?
also put a beat on him and won the satellite. I won the
Well,
satellite too. So
then when we were playing
Oh,
it
you
out,
left out that part of the story, Tom.
well, after seeing the picture up there, obviously I knew I was going to have to come up with some way to trap him. So I'm sitting there biding my time, and I flop. I get pocket jacks, and the flop comes something like 10, like 6-4 with two diamonds or something like that.
Right.
And he so the flop comes out, and he bets, and I just call. I'm just slow playing these jacks, and bingo, I hit my jack on the turn, and now I got him, and he comes out betting the turn again, and I go all in, and he calls, and he turns over 3-5 suited, so he's got a straight draw
Diamond.
and a flush draw,
Yep.
and of course he hits. And
What'd I tell you about playing them damn jacks?
yeah, those damn jacks. I didn't know you then,
That's
Sherry.
true. You didn't. You didn't. But now you know. Screw those jacks. I just need to make a little announcement. Come join me in Malta, October 29th through November the 3rd. We're going to Malta, folks. So if you want some more information, DM me and I'll get you the name of the person you need to contact. But we're going to Malta. I'll be hosting a poker tournament on Halloween night. So bring your Halloween costume and meet me in Malta.
Now, let me just add to that story. After he beat me, I really didn't like this guy and thought he was a jerk. So I didn't run into him again until the Orleans was having a series, and we were playing in a pot limit hold'em tournament, and he happened to be at my table, and Susie Isaacs was at my table, sitting next to me, and Tom was at the table, and I did pick up a tell on him, but it didn't matter. But it ended up he turned out he was actually a nice guy, and then we were friends ever since. But very disappointing. He turned out to be a nice guy. one less war on my tab.
I love it. All right, Tom.
You do like to. You do have some wars. That's true.
We've been going for about an hour and 35 minutes. Are there any stories you'd like to bring up that we haven't touched on? Anything you'd like to share?
Oh, well, I got a lot of stories I could. Well, buy my book. Tons of stories are in there.
Absolutely.
And
Poker
the whole.
Pioneer.
There's no. It's not a strategy book. It's all my interactions with all the famous people in the poker world. I met 2 players, 3 if you want to count Helmuth, before they were famous, that made a huge impression on me. And it's like about 1987 now, and I'm playing in a cash game at Binions
Right.
between tournaments at the World Series. And this guy at this table, and it's a fairly tough lineup too, is just beating everybody, myself included. He's just crushing this game. Who the hell is this guy? I never saw him before. Well, he's from New York. His name is Eric Seidel. I said, wow, he is one heck of a player. That's the year he came in second to Johnny Chan. A couple weeks later, he almost wins the main event. And of course, he's got like 10 bracelets in the Hall of Fame. He's a terrific player. But he blew me away. That didn't happen too often. But it happened one other time. Now I'm in Mississippi, and I'm playing. It's a limit hold tournament. And there's this black dude on my right who keeps raising and raising and raising. I keep playing. I said, how the hell can he get away with this? This is limit hold. How can he keep winning these hands? He's raising all the time. He can't possibly have the best hand all the time. Everybody keeps winning. I said to myself, okay, I never saw this guy before. I said, he's either a maniac or something special. And I did not know which.
Or his
And that
name
black
is
dude's name, of course, was Phil Ivey.
or his name is Phil Ivey.
Phil Ivey.
Right. Are there any
So
players
twice I got blown away by. This was before they were famous, and
Right.
I even knew Phil before he was famous, but I didn't. He had a big ego back then too, so I didn't quite take to him as much
Right.
immediately. But Phil is a good friend of mine now.
He's
So
a
he's got
a
his
good
critics,
guy.
and I know I don't approve everything he does, but he is the most honorable person you can imagine. He's done a lot of charity work, done a lot of things people don't even know about that I know about.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm proud to call him my friend.
Hey, Tom,
Yep.
have you ever had any interesting interactions with our friend Mr. Kessler?
Oh, yes. He is a rather unique individual. Now, he's not everyone's cup of tea, but I've always seemed to attract weird people in my life, and he certainly is classified as weird. And I like Alan, but he must have OCD or something. he is very precise about a lot of things. He's very strong opinions on a lot of things. And you look at him, he looks like a Casper Milquetoast kind of guy. And his nickname is Chainsaw, which is totally out of character for the way he looks and presents himself. But he's relentless. He's an excellent player, a very smart guy. And he's had a lot of influence on how certain tournaments are structured. He's got strong opinions on how the structure should be. But I like him. Not everybody does. Some people find him very annoying. In fact,
well, I'm just going to tell you,
I'm good friends with Kathy Lieber too. A lot of people find her annoying too.
Well, he
What was that?
is. Alan is a Spaces favorite. He hangs out with us often. So we have a lot of love for Alan here in the Spaces. And we have a lot of love for Kathy Liebert as well. Are there any players that you did not or have not had a chance to play on the felt with that you regret or you look forward to possibly still getting that chance? Any players?
Well, I have played with every person that won the main event championship, starting with Johnny Moss in 1970 through Joe Cada, who won in 2009, with one exception. The guy who won in 1979 is a guy by the name of Hal Fowler. He was probably the worst player to ever win the main event. He was hitting gut shot straights and miracle cars, and he ultimately won the tournament. He was the longest long shot in the starting field that year. He won, but he quit poker before I got a chance to play with him. So I always regret I didn't get to play with Hal Fowler at least once, because he's long gone now. But that was it. And I haven't played with some of the more recent champions. I'm hopefully that will I'll get the opportunity. I played with Mizrachi before. I got to do one quick Mizrachi story. Back when I was team pro for Poker Stars, I was their featured pro until Moneymaker came along. Then I was the second featured pro after him.
Right.
So this is back away from 2003 or 4. The Mizrachi is already a pretty well-known name, the Grinder. Well,
Right.
each week there would be one guy that had the best record in tournaments for that week. And we get to play me a $1,000 freeze out in the game of their choice. And if I won, I didn't get to keep the money, by the way. If I won, it would go to $2,000 next week, and so on and so forth. Well, it got up to $5,000. That's about the highest. And who do I play? Mizrachi, the Grinder, and I knew who he was too. So we're playing for $5,000 a freeze out on Poker Stars, and a lot of people watch it. They tune in.
Sure.
And they want to see how it works. And I beat him. He was so pissed off that I beat him that he immediately challenged somebody else. Back then, you could play other people heads up for any amount you both agreed on. He played somebody else right after I beat him. I think it was the same day for 5,000 and won. So he got his 5,000.
I love that story.
So I always liked that. One time I played Mizrachi head up, I beat him. I consider him a way better player than me, by the way. So yeah, you got.
Well, you
Then
both
when
are.
you're playing heads up, no limit.
You guys are both great players. So I want to give a little shout out to some of the folks that have been tuning in with us tonight. I see Jeff and Ryan Robb and DJ, Brian Art and Exec Deck and Leo. I see all you guys. I appreciate you. And D-Man and Rizzo and Barry and Halo Girl. Of course, Matt and Isaac, appreciate all of you, and Fats too. I'm going to go around the horn. If anybody in the audience has any questions they'd like to ask or any comments to make with Tom or ask him questions, request that microphone in the bottom left, because we're about to go around the horn for last questions or comments before we end the space. So we're going to start out with Matt. Do you have any last questions or comments?
Just to say to Tom, what a fascinating story. He's an absolute tremendous guy. And Sherry, I'd love to ask a question, but unfortunately I've got to take off. So it's been a pleasure as usual. Thank you for having me on. And Tom, been a pleasure talking to you, and wish you all the very best and have a good one.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you. And I have brought up I have brought up a couple of new speakers. Brian Ard, welcome, and please meet Tom.
Thank you, Sherry. Hello, Tom. Nice to talk with you, sir.
Hi there.
I have a question, and I think you may be involved in this, but I think Doyle was when it was. I think it was a main event down to 3 people. It was Doyle, and I thought you and somebody else, and
myself and Rod Pete. That was the final.
And anyway, y'all made it. Did I read this right? Y'all made a deal when y'all were on break or something, and Doyle wanted out or something.
Nope, that wasn't that way at all. I know a lot of times you make deals when you get down to. I knew there'd be no deal making as long as Doyle Brunson was there. So we're three-handed. So there was no deal even discussed as long as Doyle was there. And then when he finally got eliminated, we had a little bit of a break. I asked Rod. The difference in the prize money was substantial. It was 540,000 for first and 216,000 for second, and that's a huge gap. So I asked Rod. I said, "Would you like to save $50,000?" He said no, because his buddies thought that he was going to beat me, and he was listening to them. I said, "Okay, fine." I dropped it. End of story. Now another guy, a mutual friend. We're still on break now. A guy by the name of Fred David, who's a professional player back then, and knew both of us, and we were friendly towards each other. Said, "You guys are playing for too much money." He says, he made a suggestion, and here was the suggestion. This whole story's in my book, by the way. He says, Rod's got, the chip lead. He had 62.5% to my 37.5%. I did the math later, but I knew what it was approximately then. So he had over 600,000 to my 400. So anyways, he says, Rod, if you win the tournament, Tom gets 300,000 for second place instead of 216. But if Tom wins the tournament, you get 350,000. So in other words, the deal substantially favored Rod Pete. So, and I agreed to it. And you know why I agreed to it? I knew I may never get another chance to win this tournament. I knew Rod had pieces out like I had pieces out of my actions. So that's money out of the equation. So we were both going to wind up with about the same money. So even if he lost, he was going to get about the same kind of money that I was going to wind up with. And I knew that winning the tournament was a lot more important than money to me, for sure. Not that it wasn't important to Rod, but he, at the time, I think he was a little bit more concerned about the money and then winning the title. But I knew how important it was, even back then, when it was a fraction of what it is today, how important it was to win that. And I correctly figured I may never get another chance to win, so I better do it this time. So I gave Rod way the best of the deal. I figured it might just soften him up. And he did finally snap at the end. But it was a long, drawn out affair. It's not like he was just going to gamble wildly and get it over with. No, he was trying to win.
Awesome.
So, anyways, that was the story.
Bye, Brian.
Tom, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay.
Welcome,
But there was
Leo.
no deal three-handed.
Okay. I love it. Hey, welcome, Leo.
Oh, hey, sorry about that. I got disconnected, and excuse my dog barking in the background. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say thanks, Tom.
Oh, you cut out, Leo. We can't hear you. Uh-oh.
Well, thanks, Leo. I did hear him for a minute there. Okay.
Leo, we can't hear you. If you want to.
I appreciate that I'm being appreciated.
Okay. I hate that for him. Hopefully he'll be able to drop out and come right back in. And he'll be able to finish his comments. I hate that for him. Isaac, hey, buddy. I know you've been going in and out and doing stuff. And do you have any questions or comments for Tom, Isaac?
Are you still in Vegas, or you're no longer in Vegas, like where you stay at now?
No, I've lived in Las Vegas since 1979, and that's home. I'm visiting my brother who buried my sister-in-law 2 days ago. So I'm in the Grand Rapids area, Michigan, till I go back home like next Thursday. But Vegas is home.
All right, cool. Yeah, because I missed the chance to meet you. Definitely want to try to meet you at some point. Maybe get you to sign a book. Um, Maybe
Oh,
I could ask
sure.
you a few questions about
Always
poker.
happy to.
That'd be awesome.
Isaac, help me remember to invite him to
Okay.
the meetup game in December.
Absolutely. You got that, Sherry.
Okay. All right. Awesome. I'm trying to give Leo a few minutes in case he can get back up here. And if he can't, I can understand. And thank you, Leo, for trying. I appreciate you. For sure. Sometimes those connections, when you're not on Wi Fi, really suck. But I appreciate you listening, Leo, for sure. Go ahead, Leo.
All right, please. I hope everyone can
We
hear
can
me.
hear
I
you.
just wanted to, fantastic. I just wanted to give my appreciation to Tom for
Yeah.
writing the book. It's a fun read. I appreciate the candor, the ups, the downs, um, and I appreciate what he's done for the game. Getting Smoking Band and helping tournaments become, what they are. And yeah, really, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well,
I appreciate the comments.
well said, Leo. Thank you. For sure, a poker pioneer, and we have all benefited from his, you know, everything he's done in the poker world. We've all benefited from it in one way or another, for sure. So I appreciate everybody stopping by and spending time with us. And Tom, I appreciate your time. I know you're out of town for not so great reasons, and I asked you if you wanted to reschedule, and you said no, we can do it. And so here we are, and I appreciate that. Go ahead, Fats.
Yeah, I want to shout out to Sherry for putting this space together and putting Tom on the map so people actually can know who he really is. Because he stayed under the radar a lot. But I also am very impressed with the research Sherry did. 15 books. I'm shocked. I thought he wrote just one or two. The fact that you were able to track down the names of those books, plus all the other data that you had to prepare for your interview, a shout out to you for that. But
Thank
most
you.
importantly, Sherry, I commend you for actually getting him into the space with the microphone because I know the effort that went
We
into
practiced.
that project.
Well, I first want to thank you for the kind words, Fats. I really appreciate you and your kind words. And yeah, and you started, I asked you, you had dinner with Tom on Monday night, and I asked you to please make sure that, Twitter was installed and that you kind of give him a hands on lesson in person, which you guys did. And I missed that
You have no
space.
idea what we went through there.
Well, I kind of do because Sean McCormick was taking bets today on my post advertising for the space.
He
The
saw what we went through. He was
I
there.
know. I know. That's why I'm laughing. But then I don't remember if it was, I think it was Tuesday, Tom and I had a phone call, and then I did some practice spaces so he could come in and practice getting into a space. And I walked him through, the microphone and the sound effects and the, purple pill and all that stuff. Um, and then we discovered he wasn't hooked up onto the Wi-Fi in the house he was staying at. So then we took, I don't know, about a half an hour to figure out how to get his phone on Wi-Fi. And so we got it done though, didn't we, Tom? And I'm proud of you.
We did. I'm a computer illiterate almost. Tech, with technology. I tell people I'm a 20th century man trapped in the 21st century, but I do put my mind to it. So when I can be guided properly, I can follow instructions, and that's what I did. I never could
And
have
we
done it on my own. There's no way.
Well, and I'm glad we got you through it, and I have a space every Friday night at 7:30 Eastern, and you're more than welcome to join us when you can. And during the WPT, I'll host a daily space every morning, and during the WSOP, I'll host a morning space every morning. So hope you drop in and tell us what you're up to. We would love the updates for sure, Tom.
Okay, we'll do it now that I know how to do it.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks
Appreciate
And
for
again,
you.
listening, everybody, and thank you for having me.
Appreciate
thank
Okay,
you,
you.
Steve, I'll
Tom.
give you a call soon. Okay, take care, everybody.
Good night,
Thank,
Goodbye now.
everybody.
thank you, sir.